right, welcome to Pass the Mic. We are into August, Friday, August 2nd, 2024. Mike Piotti are on Zoom for episode 125. Joining me, Michael Gervasi.
Oh man, we're getting close, getting close.
Getting close. We had a little week off, a little midsummer break,
Mhm.
which we sometimes do take. So feedback is going back quite a bit. Kennedy Prokupchik, who is a City of Gibraltar employee, we talked about the carnival, right? Overrated, underrated carnivals, and we talked about the
Correct.
rides.
Yes.
And she firsthand saw these rides delivered and said there was no way
Right.
that these were going to be set up or used. And uh, and it's like what we joked around a little bit about. You normally say that when you go to a carnival anyway, right? Like you go there and
Correct.
look, and you're like, "How's this even happening?" So how bad must have
The
these?
bar must have been really low on this one.
So, but we appreciate her inside information there. Hope it's always good to get that. She's a very, very loyal listener that pops in when we have some important stuff. Joe Berg, I reached out. We talked about Christian, and you did your hot mic on Christian Ibrahim back a few weeks back and totally agrees with us about mass. You just know. I mean, you never know illness wise, or even like she mentioned, like recovering from COVID. But there's a lot of people with diseases where their white blood cell count is low or whatever, or for whatever like again
Right.
for whatever reason.
Yeah.
What's it matter? I don't understand what impact it has on you. And if anything, maybe they're trying to help you. Maybe they're a little under the weather, and nobody wants to get sick. I've heard a lot of people getting sick this summer.
Just one of those divisive issues that, I'm sure is just another one of those things that people use to divide. It became a political issue, which it shouldn't have, but that's how it works here. So
Yeah, we need rule number one: worry about yourself. The
yep.
Ren Dog, of course, always reaching out. By the way, one of the reasons we were off, I was on a little road trip. I just miss crossing towns with the Ren Dog on my trip on the way back.
Really?
Yes. He loved my Mike of the Week back a few weeks ago, Mike Barnes from Karate Kid 3. On this trip last week, we're recording this on Thursday, I was in Gulf Shores from like Tuesday through Saturday, or Tuesday through Sunday. And then Sunday we were driving back up, and we were going to stay in Nashville Sunday night. It's literally halfway between Downriver and Gulf Shores. So we stayed in
Yeah.
downtown Nashville. The Ren Dog was in Nashville Friday and Saturday night, leaving Sunday. I almost got to go honky tonkin' with the Ren Dog.
A lot of Carlson students actually live there, former Carlson students. It seems to be the place to be.
It's amazing. My wife went down years ago. My sister-in-law was in med school down in the area, and so Elisa went there years ago, and this was the first time back since like visiting, and she's like, it's like crazy how much it's grown like in this window into like a tourist destination. So, but just missed the Ren Dog. Yes. Thank you for I'm glad you like my mic, and I'm glad you invited yourself to my co-host's future wedding.
Yeah. Max has a great idea. Amusement parks have a separate non-riding fare. I think that's a very good idea.
Yes, that was me with the food pass. Like I just want to eat.
He could not believe the fact that people ask strangers to pick up their kids. That's again, Downriver and Friends, gift that keeps giving. Ever since Mike, that would be me, dropped the Anthem hot mic, they've been in the news quite a bit lately.
Yes.
They've been in the news. The Tigers, my prediction did not age well. The injury bug has hit them. And so
they sort of sold.
They became sellers, clearly became sellers, but did not trade Scooble, not
No.
Scooball. I've been saying that incorrectly. Scooble did not trade him. So that didn't age well. Kent Sikora had a great one. Listening, you should find an article as to when the latest middle school regional track meet will be. We all got a good chuckle out of that.
Middle school meet in general, like they're running into June. Maybe they're Olympic qualifier meets.
Yeah. Todd Bailey believes that the head of GM, amongst other, not believes, this is kind of a fact, wants the ability for collaboration, a skill that needs to be honed. That was kind of some of the stuff we mentioned with as regard to schools. Deontay did not like Major League Baseball All-Stars jerseys either. I in total
You're the minority there.
I am. Piotti is blasphemous for his Niners versus Lions NFC Championship take. I'm not sure exactly what part of the take. I think we both agreed, and I think Deontay would agree that the Lions were in control.
They had that game. Yes.
Yeah. Um,
I'll never be one of those people that say that they lost the game. I mean, the 49ers won the game. I mean, they did what they had to do.
yeah,
But I mean, there was no reason for the Lions to lose that game.
none. 24-7. Yeah. Again,
You know, and again, I think line them up 10 times. I think you give me one of those, line them up 10 times. You know, that's the famous saying, right? You line up
yeah.
those two teams 10 times. I'm going to pick the 49ers 6-7.
That's fair. Um, I just wanted to share this. Greg Campy is the coach of Oakland University. I took a screenshot of this because I thought it'd be nice to share. And maybe this would have been a better hot mic topic, but I have a different one this week that I wanted to make sure I got to. This is Greg Campy. During a speech I gave to a group of business executives, I was asked what is the difference of student athletes from 20 years ago. Here's his answer. 20 years ago, if I said jump, they would say, how high, coach? 10 years ago, they would say, why? Today, they say, how much will you pay me?
Oh,
I think that's really, really interesting. And you and I think, are two people that can kind of adapt and change with the times. On the flip side, I think that a lot of things when you open up, and you've empowered these college athletes, you end up with situations like this where there really is. I don't think they envisioned all that has happened with opening up the transfer portals as they have. So I just wanted to share. I think it's a great quote from Campy. A couple more here. Tony Saavedra took issue with Jill Burguy's take on Bill Lambier. He was the front line of the bad boys. Did not have a lick of athletic ability, but found a way to physically and mentally disrupt opponents. 85%, 84% free throw shooter, which was not common amongst bigs. And Patricia wholeheartedly disagrees. And you jumped in on my side on that one with my Sergey. Well, not my friend Sergey Fedorov take. I did not say that. Jamel Hill, you're not going to like this one.
she sent feedback to the Pass the Mike show.
She did not, but you're not
Oh,
going to like not trying to hate on Pitbull, but is having him perform a little outdated at the WNBA.
I saw he got a little feedback for that WNBA show. I saw that.
Yeah. We got a new listener that we didn't know about. Ken Eaton.
Oh, okay.
Get rid of the phones at lunch, make them speak to each other.
Yes, the whole Eaton. I think the Eaton clan was listening on a trip or something. They may have said.
Well, he just wrote chiming in as Ken, and I listened.
Oh,
so
okay. Yes.
I think that's cool. I hope we didn't lose him with the week off.
Yeah, we're a little more. We took our week off right after we got a new listener.
Everything's kind of tenuous. Elizabeth Pate had a good one she sent us. I'm sorry, lots of feedback.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Right? I was on vacation mode, so.
And I'm going to agree with her on this one. I find myself doing this. It's not something I thought about. And it will be a preview of my hot mic for next week. Things we do that we don't realize that we do, that we accuse others of doing. So she was at Ariana's orientation at U of M, and gets on her phone so she doesn't have to talk to strangers.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds rude, but I think we all kind of do it. There are just certain conversations that for whatever reason, maybe you're in a mood, maybe you just don't want to interact with people you don't know, and it's kind of your personality. So I'm going to agree with that one. I think it's a good take, even though it doesn't sound so nice.
I 100% do my grocery shopping with my earbuds in. Why? Because I do not want to be interacted with at all.
You're in a zone. You're locked in.
I'm in a zone, and I'll see people. Sometimes I'll see people I know, and I'll give a little wave, But you see that's in the winter. It sucks because I have like a cap on, right? So they're covered.
Yeah,
like a winter cap.
Right.
This time of year I'm wearing my Pirates hat, and they can see it. There's one person I stop and talk to. They get the earbud pull out rule all the time. You know who that is?
Who's
Rocky
that?
Georgie. Rocky
Oh,
Georgie.
Rocky?
I run into him all the time at Flat Rock. He's worthy of the stop and pause.
Okay,
but fair. He's also wearing them too, though. I think he does the same thing I do, and we both are professional, and we recognize the stop and pause.
I used to do that, and then I part of it was just for my sanity, because sometimes, depending on the time you go to the grocery store, it can be very mentally taxing. It's
yeah. Well, I think we're in the I think we might be slimming into the minority more when the more of these people do these services where they ship it.
Sure, right.
I can't do it. I can't let go. I can't let go of picking my own produce.
No,
that's for me. That's the big thing, because
I agree.
when you go into the and I'm not a snob or anything, but when I go, I'll use green peppers as an example. You go into the green pepper section, about 2/3 of them are junk. All right, you got to find. I find the one or two that I want, and I'm afraid some doofus. No offense to anyone working at Kroger or whatever, picking them out, just grabbing stuff to hurry up. And I get it. You just want to get done with your job, right? They're
Yeah.
not going to put in the effort I do to, buying that produce. Strawberries, for example, I buy a pack of
I was
strawberries.
just gonna say
You,
raspberries,
I
same thing.
turn them, berries, I
Yep.
turn them over, look at the bottom to make sure they're not half
Moldy and yeah,
liquefied
I
or
know.
whatever. And I just fear that this person at Kroger that has, and again, I'm not knocking, they probably got a list of clipboards with like 8 orders to go. They're not going to sit there and do that for everyone.
Right. Right.
Not to be a
Um,
grocery snob,
no, I
not to
agree.
be
I
a
agree.
grocery elite.
That's it. So, we're good there. Can I, before we get into my mic, I have to give my hip hop recommendation.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to ask you. This is not me putting you on the spot. Okay.
Okay.
Well, it is, but it's not meant to be funny or humorous. I was talking to somebody recently. They really missed a bit of me rapping lyrics.
Yes.
I can't remember who it was either, and you not knowing. But this is a genuine question for my own scientific research. Serious question. You ever hear the song "They Reminisce Over You" by Pete Rock and CL Smooth?
Never.
Okay,
Not even gonna act like
so
I did.
it's a pretty old song. It's from 1992, which is, geez, oh man, 32 years ago. It's really interesting to me because it was a huge hit. In fact, I looked up, it is ranked as high on some hip hop all time great songs lists. It's ranked as high as number 6 on one of them. As low as like 48, 49, 50, but it's a amazing song. And what I'm doing now is I am coming across just whenever I'm listening to, the old school LL Cool J rap station on Sirius 43, or they replaced mercifully a country music station with barbecue backyard hip hop, which is also old school hip hop on 105. And these are like, this will be probably for the next month or something like that.
Yeah, it's like a
But
summer themed.
it's like a summer thing. Yeah. So whatever it comes across, I make sure to take a note of it. They Reminisce Over You is what the song's called. The acronym being TROY. They Reminisce Over You. And it's broken down into three stanzas, three verses. And I wanted to share this one again. For the people that, like you, grew up around here, that hip hop didn't seem to cross like West Road or something like that. This is a great story. And my big issue with rap today versus our era, get off my lawn, is old school hip hop told much better stories. And this is the ultimate storyteller song. And so I broke it down. I found out a little bit about the song a little bit deeper. Again, it's broken into 3 verses. The first verse is about a teenage mom having a child at 18 doing it on her own. The second one is devoted to his grandfather. And then the third one, the basis of the acronym of the song is about a friend that they lost named Troy. Hence, they reminisce over you. It's an amazing story. It's not political in nature. It's not asking you to necessarily learn anything. I believe it's his story along with Pete Rock, who did the song with him. Pete Rock produced a whole bunch of rappers back in the 90s and early 2000s. So it is well worth the time. Again, the song is called "They Reminisce Over You" by Pete Rock and CL Smooth. Got a nice New York sound to it. I think it's really a great song. You'll enjoy it. So that's my recommendation for the week. "They Reminisce Over You" by Pete
All
Rock
right,
and
there
CL
you go.
Smooth.
The fans, they're getting what they want somewhat.
Yeah.
All right, who
So
is your mic of the week?
So I'm one of these geeks that gets turned on to shows and sometimes doesn't goes back to them. And there was a show in the mid 2000s, or I'm sorry, the mid tens, called "Person of Interest" on CBS, starring James Caviezel and Michael Emerson. Michael Emerson was the brains behind the operation, and it entailed finding some muscle. And person of interest would basically, it would predict crimes based on algorithms and AI and all sorts of other stuff before AI was
Well
cool.
before its time.
Well before its time. And they would predict crimes, and some way, shape, or form, the person of interest would be saved or prevented from doing something, because you never knew who it was, if he was a good guy or bad guy. James Caviezel would go save the day. Michael Emerson was the brains behind the operation. I looked him up. He's been in a whole bunch of things, including, I believe, Saw. He seems.
I think, not to interrupt you. I think
Sure.
I know him. I didn't know the name, but when I just Googled him, to me, I remember him from Lost.
I saw he was in Lost as well. Yeah.
That's what
So
he was Benjamin Linus, he's a little Weasley looking guy. No offense to this Michael.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure none taken on his end. It's kind of what he's very good at it. Like he wears it
Yes.
well.
All
So
right.
that's my mic.
Nice. That's a good one. I hadn't. Yeah, he is 69 years old. Turned 70 on September 7th. By the way,
Okay.
big birthday coming up. So,
Yeah.
all right, nice, Mike. All right, education topic with this week. You threw out the idea of as we roll into August. I saw somebody post a social media post. August is like the Sunday of months. Maybe that's just for educators. I don't know.
I could see that.
Um, there's really nothing big in August, right? No major holidays. Labor Day is
No.
September. I mean, the 4th is there. I mean, it is what it is. So the education topic, what's left of summer for us? What do you got on your calendar? I want, it seems like I think I'm crossing something off and then something gets added. So I'll start with you. What do you got going on the rest before we head back? Which, by the way, prep day, I just reached out to Mr. Mull today to get the flyer for prep day so I can create that Facebook event. That's right around the corner. Fall sports are a week from Monday starting. So what do you got?
So I got, first off, I'm reading multiple things here at once. I'm trying process of reading another NBA analytics book. I just so fascinated by analytics in the NBA, especially. So that's one. The other ones are kind of rotating, and I'm finishing them quick. I'm reading thrillers. I also finished a Middle Eastern primer book.
Holy cow.
Just to kind of, this was really small, and it wasn't written by a historian or anything, but he actually did a pretty good job. Early on, there was a couple of grammaticals that immediately turned me off, but it was a pretty good book. And what's really interesting is as the situation tenses up more in the Middle East, with the latest round of assassinations and the like.
Oh,
I was
yes.
able to look at, some of these individuals. He actually wrote the book. The book was published and rushed to print, I'm sure, because the events of October 7th, 2023, there's not a ton of time in between that and now, but the book was rushed to print, I believe, in February. And some of the Hamas figureheads, so to speak, have been eliminated here in the last couple of days that were prominent members of this book. So as the situation tenses up, we'll see what happens. But that's one of the things reading. I am also trying to get some exercise, a lot of exercise in, because I know it's just not going to be available to me. So I got on the bike yesterday, did about 13 or 14 miles. Still debating if I'm going to do that 5K Smithsonian that
Oh, yeah. It's
you
coming up.
guys
That's
do
right.
it
We got
with
to plug that. We normally plug that.
you, Max, Bill Stevenson, everybody else. You guys do an amazing job there. My Achilles just isn't cooperating as much as it used to. So I'm considering that. And educationally, I will tell you right now, this AP stuff, the AP Gov class I've been talking about here, it really is starting to get down there to it. I'm starting to really stress, so I can promise a listener, not that most listeners care, but virtually every day I'm spending some time on this in some way, shape, or form, trying to get myself ready. And Mike, it's a frustrating endeavor. I feel like
Well,
I'm like 25 again, teaching a class for the first time.
even if it wasn't AP, anytime there's a new class involved, a
Yeah,
totally new class, that's
right,
always a lot of work, which people don't realize. Like we said, there's work going on all the time.
right.
On my end, personally, well, like I said, I got a book or two I want to squeeze in too. I've already read two over the summer. I brought one down. I always bring a book on a trip, but I don't like to read. I like to really do much of nothing, when I'm on a trip. But
Yeah.
Max gave me this book about this trucker because we talked about travels with Charlie. So he sent me a book it's a long road trucker, and basically it's the same thing, a little more modern era. I started into that a little, got to finish that a little bit as well. Um, Videos. I'm about 2/3 of the way done with Safe School videos. Okay. I just got an email from Julie Raymond. I passed my CPR and first aid certification. So I'm all good with that for another 2 years. I've got to do some back to school shopping, especially with Chloe, because she's moving back to Ann Arbor sooner. Um, Prep days, and I go in and work a few days before prep days as part of my job. So I got to go in a little earlier. Still doing the golf course a little bit here and there. Mr. Mall actually said he missed me last Friday, but I was in Gulf Shores when he came in to play 18 at the Metro Park.
Oh,
But
cool.
so still doing some time there, and then just when you think you like get ahead of yourself, you're getting everything locked in. Nate went to do a job shadow yesterday of Dr. Nicole Teifer at her orthodontics office because that's something he's interested in, and uh, hit some guy in front of him. Moves out of the way real quick, and there's some tire tread on the road, dented my tire, ripped a little bit of the undercarriage out of my
Oh,
lease. Yeah. And by the way, that's collision, not comprehensive. Even though he couldn't have gotten out of if he would have went in the lane next to him, he would have hit another car. That's what I asked the guy on the phone. I'm like, would you have preferred he swung into the other car And the guy's like, well, it's something on the road. You got to get out of the way. I'm like, yeah, exactly. It's, insurance, man. I tell you what,
Uh,
it's like the absolute. So not only is it instead of $100 deductible, it's a $500 deductible, and the rates probably go up because of tire tread on the road.
man, let's get it really. You know what,
We
Mike?
went into the wrong industry.
We did. And let me vent. You know what? I'm going to vent to you right now. The Tigers are back on Xfinity,
Oh yes, the
but you need
bill's
a
going back
plan
up.
upgrade. You need a plan upgrade, and it's not cheap. And they told me, it essentially will cost me $45 to upgrade.
Oh
Now,
geez,
but we give you this channel, this channel, this, but I don't want those channels. Well, you could take off half, you could make your internet half speed. Basically, I'd be paying $36 more a
yeah.
month to have what I had.
Nah, yeah, and just to
Man,
watch, yeah, yeah, I totally, I understand, and that's why I had to upgrade my internet, and now we're on a tangent,
ugh,
because with everyone home
yeah,
in this, like I started going over the max, and so I'm at the top tier internet. I was just thinking the other day, like once Nate goes away to college, I could probably roll that back because I think with just two people in the house, I don't need all that data or data.
data.
So, so yeah, so that's the rest of my summer. I'm gonna go take care of those things and just try to find a day or two of enjoyment. Before we know it, we'll be working up in the press box. So week one, JV, right?
Such a
Wednesday
fun
night.
time.
Is
Yeah.
that a Wednesday night that first
I
week?
believe it would be a Wednesday. Yeah.
I know the
Okay.
varsity's Friday. This year it's Friday.
Is it really?
I thought so. I don't know. You have to look. Well, they're on the road at airport, but
Yeah.
we'll have the JV game that first week back up there. So all right, overrated, underrated, just passing. We're recording on Thursday. Just the other day, we hinted at a little bit is Major League Baseball trade deadline. So we wanted to do overrated, underrated trade deadlines in general, right? Let's knock
Mm-hmm.
them all out. We're not going to go individual sports here. Sorry, Ren Dog. What do you got as your overrated for pro sport trade deadlines?
Okay. So, not surprisingly, I'm going to be in the middle on this one. I could see and hear Max Bailey rolling his eyes right now. Um, I love trade deadlines, even in baseball, which is anywhere from third to four in my favorite sports categories for the top team sports, top professional sports leagues. But I just love it. It's so intriguing to me. And usually, what happens, paraphrasing a comment on the CBS website the other day about the trade deadline for losers. It was, if you were expecting a big trade deadline, you're disappointed because there was a flurry of activity, but it was all relatively minor. There
Yeah,
were some
nothing.
pretty big
No
deals, but
big name. No, no,
yes,
no big names.
Scoobo
No.
wasn't dealt,
Yeah.
you know. So that's my overrated. There's always this buildup that I buy into every single time, and very little happens. I used to. I remember, Mike, when I was home one day during the NBA trade deadline, and I was literally like looking at the clock. I'm going to check it every 5 minutes, and I was looking at just live updates every 5 minutes. Okay, every 5 minutes on the hour. It's because it's so exciting to me, and generally speaking, not much happens. So that's my overrated.
Yeah, my overrated, and I'm going to agree with you. And I think that the problem is with baseball. Baseball used to be the king of the trade deadline, but I think when they added the wild card teams,
Yeah.
I think more teams feel like they're in than out. And I think when you're in, when like I'll just use like the Pirates as an example, or any of the, if you just think you're somewhat in, if you're not like the Phillies in, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Less teams are willing to make a move because they're
Right.
like, okay, there's a chance I might be in. But back in the day when it was just one wild card team, two wild card teams, and then I just think there's less movement. I also, but it used to be, pretty big. I think what happens too is I think off season has taken the
Right.
reign for all of these leagues. The NFL is all mainly off
Yeah.
season
Right.
trades. Major League Baseball, you think about some of the Tigers' big acquisition. It's one of the, hot stove, whatever they call it. And baseball also has that second trade deadline where it's the waiver wire, right? Where you can
I don't think that
guys can.
happens anymore.
Oh, they got rid of that.
I think they did. We don't have to look it up right now. I'm sure we'll hear about it tomorrow. So let's,
Yeah. Yeah.
we'll hold
Okay.
off on it. But I
That's
think that one's
gone.
over. I believe it
Shows how much
is.
I follow. Because
I'm
that
going
used
to
to be a big deal too. That was the famous. That was the Tigers.
that's where Verlander was dealt.
Yeah. So it happens. But my overrated is this whole. And I think we've said this before: winners and losers. First of all, half these guys you don't even know. So
Yeah.
like, and a lot of them are rentals, and I just Googled, sorry, like I Googled them. There's a revisiting the Tigers trade for Miguel Cabrera, like the 6-for-2 swap, so you can go back and read these articles of all time, all the time, and winners and losers, but immediate winners and losers, especially, we've said this about the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Immediate winners and losers is worthless because you need to do it like this. Go back and look all these years later, and that's how you really know if you have a winner or a loser.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is you're going on the assumption. So Flaherty was traded from the Tigers to the Dodgers. I guess you would assume, and this is a big assumption, and we found out. I remember when the Tigers made a trade for Jared Washburn. Was having a great season up until the point where he came here, and then he was just terrible. If you're assuming the guy pitches the exact same way he has been pitching, then maybe you could draw a conclusion. But that's an assumption, and that's not. Human beings are totally different. The guy's moving out west, different time zone, different everything, different living quarters, and everything else. Different opponents, so you don't know how he's going to be. So I think that's a fair point you're making. I did look it up, the Major League Baseball trade deadline. I did. So Max, you can rest assured, I did look this up. 2019, they got rid of the second.
They got rid of the waiver one, so this is
5 years
it.
ago.
There's no movements now at
That's
all.
it. Mm-hmm.
Look at that. All right, what do you got is underrated?
So I do want to, while we're saying it's all overrated, I'm just going back to specific trades that from Detroit sports history, and I'd love to get other people's takes on this. We know Max always has something on this that that we don't think of. Tony always has stuff. So I have 3 big trades that I think people might agree that led to some sort of championships in 2 of the 3 cases. So in 1989, the Pistons traded Adrian Dantley for Mark Aguirre. They went on to win 2 championships. They may have won it that year. That's certainly debatable because they came within a heartbeat of winning it the year before. And again, I would argue, as I have many times on this, a very controversial call. So maybe they win it that year, but it looked to be spiraling off. It looked to be going off the tracks. Dantley wasn't getting along with Coach Chuck Daly. And so the Pistons did win. We know they won 2 titles with Mark Aguirre. In 2004, as much as I've been critical of him, the Pistons trade for Rasheed Wallace certainly helped and probably propelled them to that year's title and nearly a second one. So that was a big deal. And then I got to bring this one up. It's a famous one for anybody that's above the age of like 35 in this area. And when I was in I've mentioned the AP class that I took, a guy from Georgia spoke about this trade, the Doyle Alexander trade that helped the Tigers win the division in 1987. It was a great, end of the year series with the Toronto Blue Jays. On the other end of that trade, I'm sure
Yes,
John Smoltz. Yes,
legend.
So just that was a trade. Now we can look back on what year is 2024. So 37 years later, we could say both teams won.
Maybe if that trade doesn't happen, the Pirates beat the Braves in that NLCS.
Maybe
the
Tigers
league the league championship.
Maybe the Tigers don't win the division in 87, and maybe they go on and have great success beyond that with John Smoltz. You never know.
Who knows? Yeah.
So those are just 3 trades locally. Again, I would love to hear more from the listeners. Again, Max, Kent Sikora, our sports listeners are always good at this stuff. One other thing I just want to add, and I guess falling back to overrated, Avon Bailey's driving her crazy now because we're jumping all over the place. Lions fans at the trade deadline, myself included, were so upset that they didn't make this huge deal for Chase Young or somebody like that. As it turns out, it really was much ado about nothing. They didn't lose the game against the Niners because they didn't make a trade,
Yeah, I think, and I guess I'll go into my underrated, if you don't mind jumping right off of that. To me, baseball is still king with the trade deadline. I just think that I think you have a lot more pieces to move than any other league.
Yeah, you
right?
do. You do.
Like, so with the NFL, you have your roster, your eligible roster. With the NBA, you have even a smaller roster. The NHL, I guess the NHL does have minor league players,
and
but
the NBA to a lesser extent does as well.
But I mean, baseball prospects. Baseball is all about prospects.
Absolutely,
they always grade. Whereas, the guys that are good enough make the NBA roster. And I know sometimes still like the NHL. I mean, the NHL, you have guys that are 19 and 20 making rosters. So if they're good enough, there's no build up. Most of the time, these guys, if they're good enough, they're playing NHL hockey. That's just the way it is. And I think Major League Baseball has the most pieces. Like I said, I sort of hurt my own underrated when I said earlier, it has sort of been watered down a little bit because of the wild card team, but that just means more teams are in it, and that they don't want to give up what they have. But and I think that it's just exciting too because for the most part, prospects you just never know.
Never.
Like it's weird in major. I mean, I guess in all sports, but in the NFL, they do their vetting process so well. You're only trading pro players. You know what I
Sure.
mean? You're not trading some guy from, and it's rare that, for every, it's very rare that a James Harrison comes along, an undrafted guy that had been free agent that had been cut, multiple times before he became a centerpiece, with the Steelers. So that's mine, basketball's right there. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, Woj's reports. I'm sorry, we almost mixed him up with our own
Woj,
Wojo.
yeah, be careful there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with his when stuff is breaking around the NBA trade deadline, it's almost so they're right there. They're right there. I just think they have less of a pool of players, and and I think Major League Baseball too. I mean, for the sellers, it's about sometimes dumping money, but I think for the most part, it's about and the NBA a lot of time the trade deadline's not about what's going to happen then; it's about what's going to happen down the road. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it's just about dumping salaries or dumping, for getting Rasheed Wallace was about then, obviously. But there's
Mhm.
other times where it's just about, hey, we're clearing our books.
Right. Right.
We're clearing our books for free agency. There's really no excitement to the trade. So Major League Baseball, for as much, we'll give them its props when it's deserved.
Absolutely.
I'm going to give them their props here. I think they have the best trade deadline there is.
Fair
And
point.
now that they got rid of especially now that they got rid of the waiver wire deal,
Breaking news for you.
breaking
Yeah.
news, 2019.
2019.
All right, hot mic take of the week. What do you have for us?
So, again, multiple topics, but this is the one I really had to tackle. Steve Gleason. Let me take you back. Any idea who he is? The second time I put you on the spot today.
Is this the guy that was with the Saint?
Yes. Okay.
Okay,
So
special
for the
teams.
listener, yeah, 2006, roughly a year removed from Hurricane Katrina. And the Saints are playing back at the Superdome, and they had a magical year. Drew Brees coming off an injury, and went to the Saints, even though they wanted. It seems like they wanted Dante Culpepper. Brees goes there, and they're playing their first game at the Superdome, and Steve Gleason blocks a punt. And Mike, it's weird that very few sports memories that I have are from outside of teams that I love, because I'm not a Saints fan. I'm not an anti-Saints person, but I just don't care one way or another. I'm indifferent. But he blocked the punt. They scored a touchdown. Mike Tirico, Mike that is on our wall, gave one of the best calls imaginable, and it really propelled them. He's demoralized now with the statue, with the block punt that led to a touchdown. And it was sort of just the season took off from there. They ended up making the NFC Championship game, nearly making the Super Bowl. 5-ish years later, Gleason was diagnosed with ALS, colloquially known as Lou Gehrig's disease. It's a horribly dreaded
Yes.
disease. And if you've ever seen somebody, I had the misfortune of 24 years ago seeing a family member just slowly.
Oh,
Yeah, I can't even talk about it. It's awful. And Gleason, he starting in 2011 when he was diagnosed, he was given anywhere from 2 to 5 years to live. And so Sunday NFL Countdown did a story on him. Chris Connolly did a story on him that involved Eddie Vedder and Gleason. And the connection there was Gleason was a big Pearl Jam fan, and Gleason had a young son named Rivers. And, Eddie Vedder didn't know his dad. So Gleason went to Eddie Vedder and just said, what can you offer? And there was a back and forth. That was really where the relationship started. You could find the 9-minute clip on YouTube. There's actually an hour-long special about it. Fast forward to 2021 on Father's Day, Gleason's still alive. I'm certainly not going to say doing well, but on Father's Day in 2021, Rivers, the aforementioned son, wrote a Father's Day card to him. So for Father's Day special on E60, ESPN did a follow-up story with the card that he wrote his dad. And again, just incredible. And last week if you're looking at it just through the lens of ESPN, here we are 13 years after his diagnosis, 13 plus years, still alive. Again, not doing well. He's diminishing. He has a book out. I'm going to order it because I think it's just an amazing story. The ESPYS brought him up for their Arthur Ashe Courage Award. And he's having a hard time now. The way he speaks, I guess I should have mentioned this. He speaks with his eyes onto a computer and has to look at every letter. And that's how he communicates. And he's communicating great, but his eyes are even starting to get weak.
Oh, geez.
So he's just cherishing every single moment that he has. So I'm telling the listener, aside from the part to tell a story, if you want to take 10 minutes of your time just to appreciate life a little bit more, check out the ESPYs from last week, the introduction to him. It was narrated by actor Anthony Mackie. And then his speech, it's a pretty funny speech. He still finds time to provide humor in this circumstance. And it just familiarize yourself with his story. It's way more than a sports story. Again, having seen somebody myself, that's why the Lou Gehrig challenge, the ice bucket challenge of, I believe, 2014, I thought it was great because it did raise money. It was a way of people, I heard some cynical people say, oh, this is just a way of people making themselves look good. Well, it also was a way of raising, and they raised millions of dollars for this. It's a dreaded disease. And again, I saw it once in, if just, if we could, he's lived 13 years, so maybe this is something we could tackle a little bit and see what happens from there. But it's a great story for you to familiarize yourself with, even though it really is hard to watch. So that's my hot mic.
Yeah, very good. And I think back, what you said. I circle back to like me complaining earlier about this
Yeah.
Nate hitting this tire. In the grand scheme of things, it sucks and everything, but it doesn't suck that bad. Like
No, it
it's not
doesn't
that.
suck up. You're right.
Like there's insurance. He didn't get hurt. He didn't crash into the other car. He didn't hurt anybody else. And I'm getting better with it. Like I didn't lose my mind over this initially, and I called the insurance company and this and that. But you're right. There's life is good. In the grand scheme of things, life is good. I'm gonna have a much less serious take, of course. So we took the 14-hour drive down to Alabama Gulf Shores. Made a little cross trip into New Orleans. Okay. And I remember before we left, Nate sent a text message to the family group chat listing all the places that we had to eat at, which included Buc-ee's, this is not part of a hot mic, but I guess it is. I want to apologize to the listeners and specifically Kent Sikora.
That's Sakura.
I'm still going to blast people that go there just to go there. I got there, got gas. It is amazing in there. I don't know how they do it, how they're staffed. I don't know how it works. The bathroom, as I texted you and Kent, the bathroom is the cleanest bathroom I've ever been in. That includes like some very nice hotels and cities, where like Las Vegas hotels, where lobby hotels are always very nice. I think Kent Sikora's line was you could eat a brisket sandwich off that bathroom floor, something along those lines. And you honestly probably could. It was amazing. So, but he had other places listed in his list of places he wanted to eat. We didn't hit all of them because we didn't hit Whataburger, but we did hit a couple southern places that don't appear north of, I guess, Ohio, which included Zaxby's. You're familiar with Zaxby's?
I've heard of it. I have not been.
Sort of like chicken. A lot of these are chicken. And also Bojangles. Ever hear of Bojangles?
I have not.
Very good biscuits and chicken. But the whole point of all this is I think the North, and again, I'm a Northerner. I think we're very blessed. I think it's a great place to live, obviously. I think we got the raw deal on fast food restaurants.
Yeah.
I mean, I think so. I think going to the South, where they have, first of all, they got a lot more Waffle Houses over Denny's, which my opinion on Denny's. I've never ate at a Waffle House, but I hear they're pretty good. I don't know. Anthony Bourdain did a nice little skit, if you want to look it up, a little video before he passed.
Wait, there are Waffle Houses in Ohio.
Perrysburg. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry.
But no Bojangles in Ohio. Oh yeah, there is. Bojangles is in Canton. So I plan to make a trip to the Pro Football Hall of Fame because Bojangles to me was excellent. Chicken sandwich on a biscuit. They make these delicious. And so it got me to thinking, I'm like, well, what do we have that is like local to us? And, all of a sudden I'm down there and I'm seeing Culver's all around there because a lot of people say Culver's is a very top notch, fast food. Sometimes some people claim the best burger in the business.
Wait.
But
Do you mean Culver's?
Culver's.
I thought you said Calders. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
Culver's.
Gotcha. Okay.
Out of Wisconsin, but they do appear down there.
Okay.
White Castle, right? Like that's our flex, which I get it. I saw a thing like in Arizona, they opened one in Phoenix and the line was like 3 hours long. I get it because all those transplants are out in Arizona, but I think the South. I'm gonna give it to them. I think the South overall has better. I didn't eat at Whataburger, but I hear very good things about it. That's where Chick-fil-A got its start. Now it's slowly made its way up here. I think the South has us beat. I think the South. I'm willing to concede that. If we're waving the flag on White Castle and Tim Hortons, we're losing. All right, if that's our starting lineup.
So the one area of the South beats the North is fast food.
Yes,
Okay, gotcha.
That's a hey, Bojangles. I didn't do a TikTok of Bojangles yet. I still have to. Delicious. I'm going to Canton to the Pro Football Hall of Fame and then grabbing myself a Bojangles biscuit
Okay, so
sandwich.
when can the listener tune into your MySpace on?
Yeah.
When is this going to happen?
Once I get this car issue dealt with, I got to go drop off this Blazer at Michael Bates Chevy. No free promotion at all, but I got to drop off this Blazer and start getting it getting it fixed. All right. So we have nothing to talk about. So the Pirates are thinking they're hanging around, but I don't think they're going to hang around. They just don't have the bats. They made a couple moves, but nothing shocking. But we're recording this on Thursday. Football kicks off tonight, right? This kicks off.
Yeah,
That's one thing about August.
Tonight's the night.
Preseason football kicks off tonight. Bears and Texans, I believe. Lions training camp has started. Wow, it's amazing what one strong year of winning can do. It's like the Lions are the team in this town now, without a doubt. Like they're like
My good friend,
it's a title the Wings used to hold, but
my good friend Travis, once in a while listener, occasional listener, he was in, I found this out in my class on Zoom, and he found it out. He went to Florida and he had a Lions shirt on, and people there were like, "Oh, you guys are going to do it this year." And he's a fair weather fan that likes to give it to us when they lose. So I really don't consider him much of a fan, but to hear that he's going into Tampa and hearing that, this is different territory. It's never in my life.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. I was sitting at the beachside bar in Alabama and I had my Pirates hat on, and a guy was talking to me, asking me if I was from Pittsburgh. I said no, Detroit, because he went to high school with whoever the Pirates just drafted, or he was in the town over. And then he mentioned, and we said Detroit, he's like, "Oh, I was all behind your team." He's like, "I live in Mississippi and I hate the Saints because that's basically what they have down there." So, and he was the same way. He's like all, and because I even said, me, the pessimist, I'm like, I don't know. Green Bay's gotten pretty good. He's like, no, don't worry about it. I'm like, all right. Random guy from Mississippi who I thought maybe had some Brett Favre love in him or something, but he obviously didn't. So yeah. So I mean, yeah. And again, we'll be back in Studio B before we know it. Here, we're sorry about the week off. We hope everyone had a nice, refreshing week off. We're no more weeks off, right?
We're rolling, baby.
Future. We're rolling. We're back. Everybody have a great week, and we will see you next week.